And as you breathe and as you soften into your heart, just invite you to notice what's going on there today and seeing if you can soften a little bit, softening into the heart. And from this place of the heart, I invite you to feel into what is it that brought you to this masterclass today? What is it that you are hoping to receive or to learn? What is it that isn't working in your life? And how do you want to feel instead? From this place of the heart, I set my intention that whatever happens here today, you receive exactly what you need to take this next step on your journey. And so, whenever you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes and come back to the screen. So, hello everyone. My name's Gina. I'm from Australia, and I'm really excited to share this with you today from the heart. And my intention is, whatever happens in this class, that you really receive what you need to. And if you feel inspired, you can write in the chat. You can share what it is that brought you here and what it is you're looking to receive and what you'd like to learn. And I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully, I can still see your chat when I do that. Let's see. Yes, okay. So I would also like to welcome everyone else who's watching us on the replay as well. And I invite you to, there's going to be times in the masterclass where the people that are live, I'm going to ask them questions. It's going to be interactive. They're going to ask questions. And if you're watching the replay as well, play along with us. See if you can answer the questions. The more that you interact and the more that you engage in this class, the more you'll get out of it. And I want to take a moment just to really invite you to be present with this class today. So if you've got other screens open, if you've got your phone, just put it down, put it to the side. Um, because I really believe that today it really has the opportunity to change your life. And I'm not saying that to be like dramatic. I'm not saying that to be like, this is going to change your life. I say that because I really believe that. Because for me, when I've been on this journey of healing my attachment, it changed my entire life. And I really hope that today, something in this class is going to spark it in you, and you're going to learn something that could change your life too. So I invite you to be here and be present, and let's see what unfolds. As we go along, feel free to ask any questions in the chat, and there'll also be space to share in the chat. And also, you can unmute yourself and ask questions at the end. So actually, before I start, I actually want to start with a story. The story starts in a Tantra festival in Australia. And I was there and I was supposed to be having the time of my life. I was really excited to go to this Tantra festival, to have an expansion, to learn and to grow. And it was like the final evening, and everyone else was at a party, a play party. And I could hear the music and I could hear everyone having a great time. But I was there in my tent in the rain, crying on my own. And I was crying because of a guy, and not just any guy. This was a guy that I had dated for only a couple of weeks, and we'd broken up over a year ago. Like, not even a breakup, we dated 2 weeks. And I was spiraling over this guy, and I was crying, and I was feeling so ashamed of myself because he was there off having fun with other women, but I still felt so stuck. I still felt like so unchosen. And I was crying because I felt sorry for myself. Why do I always end up in these situations where I've met a guy and he's not interested, or he pulls away, or whatever? I just felt like, fuck, this is like, I'm sick of this. And there was nowhere to run. There was nowhere to hide. There was no phone reception. I couldn't call my friends. I had to sit with myself. And it was a real, like, hitting rock bottom moment for me when I realized, like, something's got to change. This is not working. And there's something not quite right with how I'm showing up in dating. So I'm really curious as I share this story. I'm wondering if you can relate to any part of that. If maybe you've had a situation where you've gotten really attached to someone and they haven't felt the same way, or they've pulled away, or maybe you're the one that pulls away when things get close, and how painful and how shitty that can be. I want you to know that you're not alone. And if you can relate to any of these things that I'm sharing, this masterclass is going to help you. So the agenda for today is I'm going to share a little bit about my story, and then we're going to dive into attachment. I'm going to talk about what's actually going on in your love life, what is actually happening when we're in these spirals, when we're feeling like shit, when we keep going through the same patterns again and again, what's actually happening. And I'm going to talk to you about how we can heal it, how we can heal it. And I'm going to be really generous today and teach you and share you the tools. And a lot of these tools are super powerful subconscious rewiring tools that you can do on your own. And at the end, I'm going to share with you, I have a low cost offer that helps you to implement these practices that I'm going to teach you today. So stay to the end. I've got a special offer for everyone who comes live as well. So yes, who am I? I'm Gina, as I mentioned. I'm from Australia, and I'm an integrated attachment theory coach. I've been certified in attachment theory. I also studied to become a sex, love, and relationships coach, and I specialized in conscious dating. I have an honors degree in psychology, and I share this just so you can know that I do know what I'm talking about. I've studied this for years. I'm not just someone on the internet who's saying, I know about dating, I know about this stuff. Not only have I lived it, but I've really studied it in depth for many years. And down the bottom there, I have an unofficial PhD in heartbreak and healing. And I laugh because I've been through it all. Whatever story you have to share with me, I can probably relate, or I have a story from one of my clients. I've really been through the fire of the pain and the suffering and the challenges. This wanting to become secure in myself and wanting to bring love into my life has been my biggest desire and also my biggest challenge. And so I'm now bringing everything I've learnt to other people, other women who, want to get rid of this shit. So let's go back to the story. And the story is I'm in this tent at a tantra festival. It's raining. I'm crying. I've hit rock bottom. And I looked myself in the mirror the next day and I thought, that's it. This is not happening again. I am not doing this to myself anymore. Because I'm going to be honest, it wasn't the first time I'd had something like this happen. A few years previously, I'd been in a silent meditation retreat, and again, spiraling over some guy that I barely dated, and feeling really ashamed of myself. And at that point, I'd learnt about a thing called attachment, and attachment theory, and I'd read this book, and I was like, oh my God, this is me. This is me. This is what's wrong with me. And I knew there was something that needed to change. And I'd spent years doing healing. I'd done, a year of like pretty intense psychotherapy. I'd studied to become a dating coach. I'd received all this coaching. I'd done ayahuasca. I'd spent years meditating. I had like done female embodiment, like so many things. And I was still stuck. I was like, what is going on? Like, this is this is ridiculous. So I'm like, I'm gonna look more into this attachment thing. Because there was a guy on social media that I was following, and he said that he knew how to heal attachment, actually. And I'll go into that later. But first, I'm going to share a little bit about the attachment styles. So I'd love for you to share in the chat, and if you're watching the replay, do you know about attachment styles? Have you ever heard of it? You can go yes or no. If you know your style, you can even put that in the chat. And I'm really curious, just so we have a bit of a background. I'm going to share so the people that maybe that are watching the replay that don't know can get a bit of a background. But I'd love to know if you guys actually know. You've got one person who's anxiously attached. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. And so as you guys type in the chat, I'll kind of explain it. So basically, in the 1950s, psychologists discovered a kind of pattern in human beings where they noticed that certain ways of being in childhood would then translate to relationships as adults. And they call this attachment theory. And they identified there's 4 different attachment types. And it was pretty cool. It was groundbreaking research at the time to really understand that there's kind of 4 main ways that people show up in relationships. And it comes from childhood, it comes from childhood experiences. And back then, and actually only up until quite recently, we believed that attachment styles couldn't really, like, it took a long time to change them, sort of thing. So we have 4 styles. The first one is secure in this the pink one, top left-hand corner. And I call this the lucky one. And I call this the lucky one because they are lucky. They don't have attachment issues. They generally had very stable, very happy, very good childhoods, and they learnt that relationships are safe. They feel good about themselves, and they tend to go into their adult relationships without too many issues. Of course, relationships are hard. It's not like it's perfect and not like they have no issues, but generally it's pretty smooth sailing. Yeah. Some of these things I'm talking about, and then I'm sharing about in the masterclass, the secure people probably don't really feel that, so they're lucky. Um, we also have another share in the chat that she knows about attachment styles, mostly anxious, and it differs from relationship to relationship. Sometimes I'm also dismissive avoidant. Yeah, yeah, beautiful. So this can change depending on relationships as well. Different people can bring out different styles. Yeah, so I guess that's something else I should speak to is we have these four styles, but it doesn't mean you're just one. You can be a mix, and it's probably better to think about it of like you're a certain percentage of each. So you might be mostly anxious, but you might still have like 20% secure, which is good, right? So, and that can change and we can grow those and change those percentages. So anyway, the anxious preoccupied, I call this the clingy one. And this is the kind of relationship dynamic where you tend to be chasing, you tend to feel anxious. And these people can be very beautiful partners because they care and they want to please, but it can be to their own detriment. The people pleasing, they self-abandon because they're kind of clingy and they're wanting to, like, it's like this kind of feeling, like grabbing out, reaching out towards love. Come to me, come to me. Okay. Another type we have is called dismissive avoidant, and I call them the runner, the runner. And if there was a body language, it would be kind of like this. It's like, don't come too close. And dismissive avoidance, they want love, they want intimacy, but it's really scary for them. And they need to have space and they need to pull away in order to regulate. Because when they get too close, it activates all their fears. So they tend to run. And it's not because they don't care, it's not because they don't want love. It's just because their fears cause them to run away versus the anxious fears to cause them to run towards. And we're going to talk more about that later. And then the final one, we have fearful avoidant, which you may have heard of as disorganized. And I call this the hot and cold one because sometimes they're anxious and clingy, and sometimes they're running. And it can be a real roller coaster. And this can happen within the same relationship as well. And it's can be very confusing for the person themselves. And also, if you're dating someone like this, it can be very confusing. And for me, when I first started this journey, I was actually mostly the fearful avoidant, who tend to have like the most challenging childhoods and all sorts of issues, and that explains why I struggled so much. But it also means that I understand both the anxious and the avoidant parts, which makes me a great attachment coach because I know what it's like to cling, I know what it's like to run. Um, so that's a basic thing about attachment styles. If you have any questions as you go along, type them in the chat. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep going. Okay, good, beautiful, beautiful. So the next slide. So anyway, I knew I had attachment issues. I was like, screw this, I'm going to do something about it. And I reached out to this guy. His name is Sardar. He's an amazing coach, a male coach. You can find him on Facebook. If you're drawn to working with men, let me know and I'll share him with you. And we had a chat. And at the time, I couldn't actually afford one-on-one coaching. And he was really generous with me. He was really kind. And he told me that the protocol he was working with was called this three pillars or ideal parent figure protocol. And it's been developed by psychologists. There's this big fat textbook about it, clinically proven. And essentially, what this protocol aims to do is take you back in time, and to give you the secure childhood that maybe you didn't get. So you literally imagine yourself as a young child and you imagine having these ideal parents who take care of your needs. Now, this was developed in a clinical setting where the psychologist would guide you through it, but there are also guided meditations. And I found one on YouTube and I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a go. What have I got to lose? And I didn't have like super high expectations of this. I was like, how much can like a guided meditation actually do? But I was like, he told me it takes repetition. So I did it every day for a week. That was my commitment. And after like 5 days, I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, this is working. I feel so different. The first thing I noticed was that this background anxiety I'd been carrying, that I didn't even know was there, was starting to soften. I was like, oh my God, I feel more relaxed. People at work were saying, oh, you seem really cool, really relaxed. And I noticed that I felt safer in my relationships. And I noticed already after a week, a huge shift in how I was being that I would normally expect, maybe weeks of therapy to get me to, or even that, even not that. So I'm like, okay, this is doing something. I'm going to commit. And it was a bit of a slog. Like, I'm not going to lie. I decided I was going to do it every day for a month. And what I didn't know then that I know now is that it takes 21 days to rewire the subconscious mind. And this is what I was doing. 21 days is what it takes. And I committed for a month because I was like so sick of it. I had hit rock bottom. I was like, I've had enough. And it was hard work to do the same meditation every day, but I wanted it so badly that I did it. Now, not long after I did this ideal parent figure meditation, I actually got into a relationship, and it was the first stable, committed relationship I'd been in for 7 years. 7 years I'd been struggling with this shit. And I met a guy who was showing up. He was present, he was committed, and right from the start, he was pursuing me. He made me feel beautiful, he made me feel loved, and he was like, yeah, I want to be with you. And I was like, oh my God, this doesn't happen. This doesn't happen. Normally, a guy like this, I would not be interested in, or he wouldn't be interested in me. And I entered into the most loving and conscious relationship I'd ever been in. And honestly, I really do not think that would have happened if I hadn't done that month of the reprogramming, because it was changing on such a deep level how I felt about myself, how I felt about relationships, and it was helping me to be more secure. So that's the good news. That's the kind of happy part of this story. But it didn't end there. Unfortunately, it didn't work out with this guy. And when it ended, I was completely devastated. And I realized that I hadn't finished the process of attachment healing. I had become safe enough in myself that I could be with someone who could commit to me and be with me. But the relationship itself had a lot of issues. And I recognized after we broke up that I was still really struggling with some attachment things. Because let's be real, like, it doesn't matter how powerful a meditation is, 3 weeks is probably not enough to change your deep-seated fears of intimacy. It takes a little bit longer. So I thought, but you know what? Last time I did attachment healing, it helped me so much. Let's go again. Let's go again and let's get like even deeper into this. So by this time, I had found a different attachment coach. She also did the same sex coaching certification as me and had a bit of money, and she was offering cheap sessions. So he enters integrated attachment theory. And this is the most incredible methodology I've come across, and it really has changed my life. And integrated attachment theory really simplifies attachment in a way that I love. It basically says that when you have attachment issues, it's just a collection of core wounds or negative beliefs that we have about ourselves. Yeah. For example, beliefs like, I'm not good enough, I'll be abandoned, I'll be trapped, I'm helpless. And everything in your attachment stems from these core wounds. And the good news and the beauty of this approach is once we see it this way, we can heal the wounds. We can pick each of these wounds out and we can heal them systematically. And that's how you heal attachment. Wow. So I'm going to take you through. Oh, yeah, first I'll explain a bit more why. Yeah. And so the reason that these subconscious beliefs are so important is because the subconscious controls 90% of our behavior, and it's always looking to validate our existing beliefs. There's a thing in the brain called the reticular activating system, and it's looking for things that confirm what it already knows to be true. It's like, you know what a bus looks like, you know what a teddy bear looks like. And so your mind is looking for similar patterns that it recognizes. And it's how it's how we go through life. But with these core beliefs, it can really shape our reality. So, for example, if you have this core belief, which is super common in attachment issues of, I'm not good enough. And I'm sure that some of you that here today or on the replay are really have experienced this. And if you have this belief that I'm not good enough, if it's a core belief, it kind of goes across everything in your life. And you could think of it like a pair of like glasses. You know how you've got like rosy tinted glasses? Well, you put on I'm not good enough glasses. You put on I'll be abandoned glasses, right? So with these I'm not good enough glasses, you're going to ignore any evidence that you are good enough, right? So you do something awesome. Oh, no, it doesn't count. Oh, well, yeah, I could have been better. And you're always like going for the next thing, the next thing. You'll ignore the evidence that you are good enough, right? Because you believe you're not. And another thing, which is super crucial when it comes to dating, is you're going to be drawn to and want to spend time with people who make you feel not good enough because you believe that about yourself, and your RAS is looking for evidence of that. So if you've got some of these beliefs like, I'm not good enough, I'm unworthy, I'm going to be abandoned, your subconscious mind is seeking out people that are going to make you feel that way, right? And so this is what's really going on in your relationships. If you're having shitty relationships, if you're having struggles, it's your subconscious mind that is getting in the way. But we can change it, don't worry. We'll get into that later. But I'm going to share a little bit about how our wounds actually create our attachment behaviors. And I'm going to invite you to play along at home. You can type in the chat. You can unmute yourself if you want to. And we're going to see, we can really see how this plays out, really see how the core wounds are the like what makes everything happen. So, in integrated attachment theory, we talk about that we have a wound. For example, I'm not good enough. It creates thoughts, thoughts create emotions, and emotions create behaviors. So, we're going to go through a scenario that may be familiar to some of you, and we're going to put on different glasses of these different attachment wounds, and we're going to see what happens. Okay. So, the scenario is you've been dating someone for a little while, and it's been going great, and you send them a nice message. You put yourself out there like you're a little bit vulnerable, and they don't reply. It's been 36 hours, and the message is on red, and you're sitting there and you're waiting. And we're going to put on first our anxious attachment glasses. And the anxious attachment, one of the core wounds is I will be abandoned. So let's put on these glasses of I will be abandoned. All right, this is the kind of view from which you're seeing the world. We're in this situation. What sort of thoughts are going through your head when this happens, when they haven't replied to your message? You can type in the chat, you can unmute yourself, or you can just think in your own mind, what are some of the thoughts? Yeah, he's not interested. Yeah. Mm. I'm not good enough. I'm not beautiful enough. Yeah, definitely. Painful, right? Painful. Yeah. So, exactly, all of these things, he's not interested, not good enough, not beautiful enough. Maybe he's going to break up with me, or I said the wrong thing, I need to fix it. So, when you're having these negative thoughts, what are the sort of emotions that you might feel? Sad, rejected. Yeah. Sad, anxious, anxiety, fear. Yeah, yeah, exactly, right? Not very nice emotions. Thank you for playing along. You're doing really well, guys. So I put anxiety, loneliness, but also, yeah, rejected can go there as well. And so you're feeling these feelings. How are you now going to act? What are you going to do? And it's going to depend a little bit on the exact thought and the exact emotion. But let's just say if it's the anxious feeling, right? Um, what are the actions that you're going to take? You're feeling anxious. Mm. Okay, interesting. I will isolate myself. Yeah, yeah. I won't reach out to the person anymore. Yeah, okay, interesting. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, so some of the answers I had actually was a little bit different, but this is good because we're sharing maybe our personal experience and how we'd feel. It depends. I might ask him what is wrong, or if something is wrong, or I will let go. Yeah, okay. So what I had for the example here actually is more of the anxious. Oh, hang on. What did I do? Whoops. Oh no. Oh. there we go. More of the anxious behaviors, but all of these are correct, But you can really see how the beliefs are leading to the thoughts and the emotions. So in this example, if we're really tuning into this, I'm going to be abandoned, and I don't want to be abandoned, and I don't want this person to leave me. This is where we get the chasing behavior, the typical anxious attachment behavior, reading the text, chasing and obsessing. But some of these other things we're sharing are maybe a little bit more of the avoidant, yeah, where it's like, okay, I'm not going to reach out, like I'm not good enough, like, and this is kind of more maybe this has happened, but because in the past it hasn't worked, and you're feeling like helpless. There's nothing I can do to change this, right? Like I may as well just stop. Okay. So I'm going to go to the next one, and we're going to look at it with a little bit more of an avoidant lens. And again, we'll see exactly what happens. But basically, we can really see how the core belief is leading to the different, emotions and actions. If you can imagine, if you had a core belief that I'm lovable, yeah, that I'm good enough, that people love me, that people care about me. If you've never had these negative experiences before, what sort of things would you be telling yourself instead? He's busy, yeah, beautiful. Yeah, so you might be things like, oh, he's busy. And you might be like, oh, I wonder why he hasn't replied. You might feel a bit confused. You might be like, oh, I don't know what's going on. You might be concerned. You might think, oh, no, maybe something's gone on with him. And so you have different emotions, and maybe you reach out from a place of love. Hey, like, are you going okay? And you don't have this negative spiral about what's going on, right? And you've missed, yeah, busy, but curious of what is happening. Yeah, exactly. And so it's a whole different experience. Not so much angst, not so much a pain, and also a different response. You then reach out to that person with a different response, and without so much pain, you can actually get to the root of what's happening. And we're going to talk to this a little bit later when we go into the anxious avoidant dance and see how what happens when we change. But I just wanted to take you through an example of avoidant attachment as well. So avoidant attachment is kind of more the core belief here is I'm defective. There's something wrong with me. So this feeling of like not good enough, and also there's a lot of feelings of like I can't change. I'm helpless to change, right? So in this same situation, right, same situation, the person hasn't responded. It's the kind of thoughts like, oh, I've messed it up. I shouldn't have opened up. I've scared them away. Right? You might have some emotions like shame or like anger, like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. Like, I can't believe I got it wrong. And maybe some of the actions would be to shut down, to pull away. Before you even find out, you might give up and shut down straight away. Okay. So these are the kind of different patterns that we can have. And you may have a bit of both depending on the situation. It may be like sometimes you're more anxious, sometimes you're more avoidant, and other times maybe you can be a bit more secure. But it's all really stemming from these core beliefs that we have, right? And as we'll see, these core beliefs and these wounds as they go into each other, we have this fun dance that can happen. So this is now what I call this the anxious avoidant dance. And this is what happens when people get together in relationships. And what usually happens is like with polarity, people with opposite styles tend to attract. So you tend to get the anxious people and the avoidant people dating, and they're attracted to each other. Interestingly, because they both confirm each other's core wounds, which we'll talk about later. It's like the anxious person is scared of being abandoned, and the avoidant person is scared of being trapped. And so they pull away. And anyway, we'll talk about this in a second. And it's very painful, but this is actually what's going on. So we're going to imagine there's a couple, and we've got anxious attachment Annie and dismissive avoidant Dave, and they've been dating. And what normally happens is they get close, they get intimate, and things start to get real. And usually it's the avoidant person that starts to be like, oh, get scared. They're scared of being trapped. They're scared that if they go deeper with this person, that they're going to get found out to be not good enough or something wrong with them. So generally what happens is they'll pull away. And let's imagine quite like an avoidant response. Like avoidant Dave, he just pulls away, he ghosts. Okay. We've then got anxious attachment Annie, and she is afraid of being abandoned. So how is she going to feel when he ghosts her and when he just suddenly pulls away? You can type in the chat, but I've got a picture here that describes how she might feel. I've certainly felt this way. So she's probably going to be a bit anxious and be like, oh my God, what's happening? And scared. Fair enough. Now we go back to Dave's perspective, right? Anxious Annie's a bit anxious. She's like, oh, what's going on? So she might start to text him more often. She might start to be like, oh, let's do this, or try to reach out. She tries to reach out to build that connection because she's scared of losing it. Okay. And we go back to Dave. He's afraid of being trapped. He's afraid of too much intimacy. And Annie is now reaching out for him. She's like, oh, la, 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 la. How's that going to make Dave feel? Probably going to make him feel more trapped, more scared. Yeah. And he runs. He's gone. Yeah. And this is a cycle that then feeds into itself, And then by this stage, Annie is freaking out. And this is what happens when you're spiraling over a guy. You might barely know him. I remember having a massive spiral. I think we had been on one date from Tinder and then he ghosted. And I was like, yeah, I totally had a spiral. I was like this pink one in the corner, like freaking out. And I was like, why? Why? And because it triggered my wounds, because it triggered the wound. It's not just that some guy that you barely knew left, or it's not even because a relationship that you were in for 3 years ended. It's because the pain that is caused by the core wound. It's like, oh, I'm abandoned. Oh, I'm not good enough. All these horrible things. That's why it hurts so much. And it also drives the behavior. Yeah. So I'm wondering, can you relate to any of this? Nodding along or just saying yes in the chat. Like, have you ever experienced this dynamic? Are you having any aha moments from this? Yeah, we've got a yes. Yeah. And it's not painful, it's painful for everyone. Yeah. If you've been anxiously attached on the side of it, you like it can be, I've often heard, and I've done this, blaming avoidant partners, but it hurts them too. They don't want to run away. They don't understand why they keep pulling away. And oftentimes they do care, but it's their own wounds that has been triggered. Now, all it takes is for one person to become more secure, and this whole dynamic can change. This is the good news. So we're going to change it now, and let's say that we're going to make anxious Annie more secure now. All right, she's secure. She doesn't have this abandonment wound. She's pretty happy. She feels good about herself. She believes that she's worthy of love. Now, avoidant Dave, he's still avoidant, and they get close, and he pulls away. Right, he does his whole ghosting thing, and he's like, oh, okay. I wonder what's going on. She's curious. She's confused. Is he busy? Is he okay? Maybe I'll just give him some space. And let's just say, hypothetically, she goes out and just distracts herself and has fun with her girlfriends. She's not sitting there anxiously, like checking her phone. She's like, oh, it's a bit weird, but okay. She gets on with her life because she hasn't got these wounds. She doesn't feel like, oh, I need to get him in. I need to get him in, or he's going to be gone forever. So when this happens, sometimes what could happen is because there's not this chasing, Dave doesn't get extra activated and maybe he'll come back. Maybe he'll feel safe enough to come back. Okay. Now, this doesn't mean that Annie is all chill and all cool and he can just leave whenever he wants and it's no problem. No. Annie will have a chat with him. She'll be like, hey, I noticed that like you kind of went off the grid. What's going on? And there might be a chance to connect. And because she's not reaching out and grabbing, he doesn't have to pull away as much. Okay. Now, this could happen either way, right? It doesn't have to be that Annie becomes more secure. If Dave becomes more secure, again, we have a more positive loop and we have a chance of making things work, right? And another thing that can happen in this particular situation with Annie, like it may be that Dave's not ready to have that conversation. He may not be ready. He may not be able to meet her there, but secure Annie will leave. Yeah, she'll leave with her pride intact and she won't be pulling in. She won't feel like she has to keep being drawn back to this person because it doesn't resonate. Because her RAS is looking for proof that she's lovable, that she's safe, that she is good enough. And this person doesn't match that. So she's like, not that interested. It's like, okay, like, Um, so I want to share actually a story of one of my clients, Maeve, who we did some reprogramming and some attachment sessions together. And we only did 4 or 5 sessions, but we worked on these core wounds that she had. And when we met, she'd been going through a difficult breakup. And she'd been with a guy who had really been very critical of her and never really chosen her. And she didn't really, it wasn't a great relationship. And when it ended, she felt really shit about herself. Yeah. So I'm wondering if you can relate to that, right? So anyway, we did a couple of sessions together and we programmed a new belief, and the belief was I'm valuable. So instead of feeling she wasn't good enough and no one chose her, I'm valuable. And we did a 21-day process. It takes 21 days, and she started to feel more valuable. And this shit really works because we actually had a break. She went to go, she works planting trees. She went and had a break and she met a new guy. And a new guy is the kind of guy she would normally not even be interested in, but he thought that she was valuable. He was pursuing her. He was showing up. And she still had some anxious attachment, right? Because we'd only done a few sessions. And she'd start to feel anxious and be like, oh, like, I wonder what's going to happen. And literally, he would call her. He would show up at her door. He was consistent, and that helped her to soothe her anxious, tendencies. And of course, there's still some things to work on. It's not like you do one belief and then your whole world changes, but these massive shifts do happen. And this is how I can say that clients have done 3 or 4 sessions with me and then their whole world changes because they do this homework in between the sessions and they change their beliefs. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about that now. But I just want to pause. Are there any questions so far before I go on to, the next section? And you can unmute yourself if you don't want to type, or you can type. And if not, we'll just go continue. Okay, sounds like no questions. Awesome. All clear. All clear. Okay, so coming back to integrated attachment theory, our patterns are just a collection of our beliefs. So these are some of the core beliefs of the different attachment styles. Yeah. And they're not the comprehensive list, but these are kind of the main ones that you have for each style. So let's go to anxious, the clingy one. Some of the key wounds are I'll be abandoned, I'll be rejected, I'm not good enough, I'm alone. Now imagine if you're going through life with all of those core wounds. Yeah. Imagine what kind of people you're going to be drawn to, people that make you feel abandoned or rejected or alone. You're going to ignore the evidence of love that's already around you and kind of push it away a little bit. And this happens not just in dating. Like dating is like the spotlight that really shows you, like, hey, here's your issues. But you'll find a lot of these tendencies show up in your career, in your friendships as well. Yeah. They're just not as obvious. So now we've got the dismissive avoidant or the runner. Some of the key wounds are I'm defective, I'll be trapped, I'm helpless, I'm incapable of change. So this is why the avoidant part shuts down because it's afraid of being trapped. It believes that it's defective and can't change and it's helpless, right? And so you may have seen this in people with an avoidant thing. You're like, why are they shutting down? Why are they just giving up? They have these core wounds. It makes it really hard to go out and make change. Yeah. And I just want to share that each of these core wounds are painful. If you have just one, it hurts. And usually when you've been through a breakup or a triggering situation, whether it's dating or a friend or whatever, you've normally got multiple wounds that have been triggered at the same time. And that's why it feels like I'm dying. It's why it can be so painful. And I speak as someone who I'm now mostly secure from the work I've done, but mostly the fearful avoidant. So here on the right-hand side, fearful avoidant has a mix of all of the wounds. They have the most wounds, right? They have the anxious wounds and the avoidant wounds, plus extra bonus wounds, this fear of being betrayed or of being foolish or, people kind of pulling the wool over their eyes. And so it's very painful to have all of these wounds. But these are the core wounds. But the good thing about looking at it this way is, we can heal our attachment by healing the core wounds, right? As you saw with my client Maeve, we changed one of her wounds and then her whole world changed because her reticular activating system is looking for a different evidence, different reality, attracted to different people, and also different behaviors start to happen. And every time we heal a core wound, your life massively upgrades. I've healed 7 core wounds at this stage. I had a lot. And every time I shifted one, it's like my whole world up leveled. It was amazing. I was like, oh my God, everyone needs to know about this. So how do we heal our core wounds? Well, we have to heal them at the subconscious level because this is what drives 90% of our behavior. And we need to do it by speaking the language of the subconscious mind. Yeah. So this is why if you've ever tried affirmations, they don't necessarily work because the subconscious mind doesn't speak in words and it doesn't speak in language. The language of the subconscious mind is images paired with emotion and repeated over time. So this is why if you say to yourself, I'm abundant, I'm good enough, it doesn't work. The subconscious mind literally doesn't hear you. It's like, I don't care what you're saying. If you say it with feeling, I'm good enough, I'm good enough, I'm wealthy, I'm abundant. Okay, it's starting to hear you, it's a bit more effective. But if you pair that also with an image, okay, an image of how I'm already abundant, an image of how I'm already good enough, and I feel the good feelings, and I repeat that over time for 21 days, it changes the belief. This is the process of neuroplasticity, and this is what changes your life. It's like magic. When my coach first told me that I could get rid of the belief I'm not good enough, it's the first one I worked on. I didn't believe her. I was like, but I am not good enough. It was so deeply entrenched that nothing I did was good enough. But it works if you show up and you do the process, right? So the combination of images and emotion and repetition can literally change these beliefs. And you can work on these beliefs one by one. And so obviously the more beliefs you have, the longer it takes. If you have just a few, like a bit of a mild attachment issue, you can overcome it pretty quickly. If you're maybe a fearful avoidant and you have a lot of wounds like I did, it might take a little bit longer, but you still get there and you still have such a kind of uplift and like next level every time you do it. Um, so I want to share another testimonial from Monica, a woman I worked with. Now, Monica has been around the block and she has done a lot of work on herself. She just turned 50 this year. So, she's been doing healing for years and she's a really beautiful woman, got, just fucking amazing. But she came because she still had some attachment issues, right? Even after all that work, just like me. And she said this is one of the most healing modalities I've come across. And I share this from Monica because, she's not some young 21-year-old. She has, lived her life. And she said it was the most healing modality she's come across. And this is because what I love about this process is it's so targeted, okay? If we want to change our attachment and we change our world, we have to change our beliefs. And let's just say you go to a therapy session and you've got a great therapist and you have a moment of like, oh, I'm good enough. And then next week you go to breath work and you're like, oh yeah, I'm good enough. But it takes 21 days of the same message to change your belief. So all these other modalities and things you've been doing, they are healing and they do help, but it takes so much longer because you're kind of like chipping it away at it and also kind of randomly as well. Like one session you have with your therapist, you feel good enough, and the next one you work on your abandonment wounds. And yeah, it works. But it takes so long. If you just pick the wound and you chip away at it for the 21 days, it can be gone. So it's amazing. And the way that we do it, the way that I do it with my clients, is we literally look for evidence in your life of the new belief. So we're going to look at evidence in your life that you're good enough. So how are you good enough in your career? How are you good enough in your love life? How are you good enough in your friendships? And you come up with specific evidence that gives you an image. So you don't just say, I'm good enough because I'm a good friend. You say, I'm good enough because last week I helped my friend, I picked my friend up from the airport. And that's a specific thing that gives you an image. So we've got image, emotion, repetition, and we read through this list or we listen to an audio for 21 days. And yeah, that's it. It's pretty amazing. I love it so much. So what next? Oh yeah, cool. Um, Basically, I'm sharing all this with you today because I want to help. You can go at home and implement this and do this. But if you don't implement it, it's just going to be another masterclass that you went to that was interesting, you felt inspired, but it didn't really necessarily change anything. So I'm going to send you the recording after this. So you can look up the YouTube meditation and stuff if you like. But I'm also going to invite you now to a low-cost program that I've created that can really help you to implement all of this stuff, which is really exciting. It's called Secure Love Initiation, and it's a 6-week live course. And we're going to be going through these tools together. So the first 3 weeks, we're going to be using the ideal parent figure meditation, the one that I told you about where you imagine your ideal parents. And this one's clinically proven, and we're going to be doing it all together. And as I said, it's a bit of a slog doing it the same meditation for 21 days. So I'm actually going to give you a different one each week. So it's going to be 3 weeks, a different meditation each week to really help you stick with it. I don't want you to drop off because it takes the 21 days, right, to really do it. And then the next 3 weeks, we're going to be looking at core wounds, which is this last part that I talked to you about. And that we're going to address some of the core wounds. It could be that I'm not good enough or I'll be abandoned. We're going to go through the process together. We're going to have live calls, which I'll talk to you about later. And then we're going to be supported to take you through this process of one core wound. And this is like really the magic sauce. This is where things really change for you. Um, and then also we get coaching as well, because the thing is, if all you did was the reprogramming, you'd get huge shifts. But I know that sometimes people don't always follow through. And I wanted to create a course that you would follow through. When you have a one-on-one coach, you've got that accountability, right? I don't want this to be an online course that people don't finish. Like, I want people to actually get the results and really change their freaking life. So everyone who joins is going to get a private coaching session with me. So if you've got any issues that come up or any blocks, you can have that support to work through it. And we're also all going to have 6 weekly live group calls. So we're going to all join together on Zoom and we're going to go through the homework. I'm going to give you additional tools and you're going to be really supported. You're going to have the chance to connect to other people who are struggling with the same issues, and that can be really healing as well. We'll have pod sharing, so you can share in like small groups, and a WhatsApp group as well. In the WhatsApp group, I'm going to be doing daily reminders. Have you done your programming? And we're going to celebrate each other and have a chance to share. Because so much of our healing, it happens in connection with other people. So having that group and having that support is really crucial. One-on-one coaching is definitely, I would say, probably the best way to heal your attachment, and I offer that as well. But I wanted to offer a lower cost option as well for people like me who couldn't afford it to start off with. Yeah, and this 6 week course, if you stick to it, and I'm gonna do everything in my power to help you to stick to it and really support you. It's gonna just really, really change your life. It's gonna be a total up level. Um, so yeah, pricing, I've priced it really low, but I just want you to see how much it's actually worth. So the 6 group coaching calls, I value them at 900. This is Australian dollars. So if you're in euros, it's about half that. You get a one-on-one private coaching session with me, which is valued at 180 normally. And you get the reprogramming meditations, which are valued at around 300, and the WhatsApp group. So the total value, and you know how coaches like to say it's way like I feel like this is quite honest, like an honest valuing of what I'm offering. 1,500 Australian dollars is what it's worth. And I'm only going to offer it to 21 people so that it can be small enough that I can support you and check in on you and also, give you the one-on-one session because yeah, it's a lot of sessions. And so it's really cheap. It's only, at the moment, the super early bird price is 333 Australian dollars. Now, I've converted that in US dollars, it's 213 roundabout. And in euros, it's 184 euros roundabout. So it depends on the fluctuations of the market. But the Australian dollar is really shit, which is great for you if you're not in Australia. Um, so yeah, it's really good value. Obviously, the price goes up as we get closer to the date. And we're going to start September 15th, which is in, I think, two or 3 weeks. Oh my gosh, I've lost track of time. What is it? Today's the 25th, so it's in 3 weeks. So we start in 3 weeks. The live calls, I'm going to schedule them based on the time zones of people that are joining. So at the moment, it looks like it's probably going to be Europe and US friendly, but also maybe an option for Australians that join, because I am from Australia and I'll be there at some point. But what happens is when you sign up, I'll ask you your time zone, and then we'll find some times that everyone can join. So that's the program. I really hope that you join it because it's going to be amazing. A special offer for everyone who joins live today. Thank you for coming live and for showing up and being present. I've got a special offer for you guys. It's 299 Australian dollars, so about half that in euros. And that's just for people that are in the masterclass today. So you get a special price. But people watching the replay, don't worry, you still get the early bird price, which is still really cheap, I have to say. So I'm going to pop the link for the special masterclass one in the chat. So you guys, if you want to buy it now, you can buy it now, or you can just save it for later. And I'll also just put a copy of the link for the course, where you can see more details of the course. But if you want to get the special masterclass prize, you need to use the special link. Okay, thank you so much. Thanks for joining us, Martina. If you have any questions, you can reach out by email as well because you have to go. Um, okay, so now how do I go back to it's gotten too small. All right, so maybe what I'll do is I'll stop sharing. So I want to have an opportunity. All right, yeah, stop sharing. To ask any questions, guys, and it can be about the program, but it can also be just in general about what we've talked about today. Anything else that you need support with, or any questions? Yeah, I thought this was going to go for 90 minutes, but we're off sooner, which is great. Hmm. Any questions or anything you want to share? Thank you, Maria. Lovely to have you join. Hmm. Yep, have a look, see what you reckon. Any other questions from anyone else? No, no questions. Okay. Well, beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And if you have any questions, reach out via email. I'll be sending out the replay to everyone who signed up for the replay afterwards. And have an amazing day. Good luck on your attachment journey. Whatever you do, like, I don't even care if you sign up for the program or not, but like, use some of the tools, yeah, because this stuff really changes your life and you don't have to keep suffering in the same patterns. You can change it. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. And then I'll end it.